Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. The industry was taken by surprise back in October when Nationwide Marketing Group and Azione Unlimited announced the two buying groups were merging. Now that the dust has settled on that announcement, CE Pro editor Jason Knott got a chance to speak with Tom Hickman of Nationwide and Richard Glikes of Azione to find out what the game plan is for the merger, how members from both groups will benefit from the unification, not to mention what it means to Richard's golf game, all in this week's episode of the podcast. As always, be sure to subscribe to CE Pro's YouTube channel and hit that like button on our videos, or subscribe to the CE Pro podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review.
Hi, welcome to the CE Pro podcast. My name is Jason Knott, Editor-in-Chief of CE Pro, and I am excited to be joined today by two exemplary leaders of the industry, Tom Hickman, President and Chief Member Advocate at Nationwide, and Richard Glikes, founder of Azione Unlimited. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing great. All right, the industry was rocked by your big announcement on October 20th of the merger. Let me, before we get into the details of where that's headed, Tom, just briefly tell us a little bit about Nationwide Marketing Group for integrators who may not be fully familiar with the buying group.
Sure, thanks, Jason. So we are the North America's largest commerce enablement platform. So, we are a buying group as part of what we do, but also a technology software business services company. We serve now some 50 to 100 entrepreneurs and business owners across the United States and Canada that represent about 14,400 points of sale. So think of us as enablement devices for independent entrepreneurs. Anything they need in their business or around their business, we should offer the services, software, or group buying capability to get it done for them. It's been around 50 years this year, actually.
Fantastic. Happy anniversary. All right, Richard, same thing. I know that most of our readers are very familiar with Azione Unlimited, but give us a quick history of Azione.
We're a 10-year-old organization. We started when I saw a void in the market that integrators were not being addressed, and also that other groups had adversarial relationships with vendors. And I thought, boy, if you make the vendors your friends and you embrace the integration channel, you'll be successful. And 10 years later, we're in pretty good shape.
Fantastic. All right, let's circle back to the topic at hand, and that was the big merger announcement that you both had made on October 20th. And I'll throw this out to either one of you, whoever wants to take it. How did the idea come about for your two organizations to unite?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Richard and I are kind of both smiling, probably can't see that on a podcast, but it's interesting. My wife says that they find their own, or we have a saying around here that your kind of vibe dictates your tribe. So Richard and I have been around the business. I grew up in the CE business and been around a while, and Richard's been around a while. We've run into each other quite a bit at functions. Always kind of found ourselves talking about what each other's organizations were doing to help their membership grow and be more profitable. And I always just enjoyed talking to him. He said he recognized an opening in the market and some unmet needs. That we like to think that we recognize opening and unmet needs too. We found ourselves talking a lot about how important it was to service these folks in a way that was different than maybe some of the other groups that were out there, and just found a common thread in that conversation, carried it on for a few years until we started talking about, a lot about smart home and what was happening and what would have to be true for us to be work together and lead that category. And then one thing led to another. We got really, really smart over a couple bottles of wine a couple times and figured out that we would join forces together and make the world safe for integrators and retailers and business service providers all across the country.
Fantastic. Richard, anything to add to that?
No, it was really about 3 years in the making, 2-3 years. It was a long time. We would catch up at functions, like Tom says, and we would chat. And then, all of a sudden it looked like, the missing piece of the puzzle. And And then I came down and met with them and saw, and I got the vibe, it's kind of like, I'm an instinct type person, I think I read people pretty quickly, and I get a sense, and all of a sudden they, I could tell we lined up, and that made a big difference.
All right, Tom, let me turn back to you. I've always been impressed with, especially the marketing services arm of what Nationwide Marketing Group has done, which is, I think, incomparable to anybody else in terms of the studio stuff and some of the stuff that you do for your members. But give me a sense of what are some of the key strengths and or business services that Nationwide provides that's going to benefit the Azione Group members.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a couple of them, right? The marketing piece. I'm really, really interested to see what we can do together from the business services piece. Whether that be warranty, insurance for some of these folks that are out there, all the back end pieces that maybe I know Richard's folks are very adept business people, but sometimes we even find, and even our most proficient guys and girls aren't necessarily paying attention to some of the small parts of the business, right? Credit card swipe rate, perhaps some financing, insurance for their folks. I think we can help there. And then I think, we are a marketing engine, right? We've got a full studio, content, learning management systems, content providing content for places that they're selling into, even, custom content, things that'll develop, multiple revenue opportunities. And then of course, I think together we're going to be, leaps and bounds ahead from the smart home perspective.
Richard, I know, harkening back to your 2018 conference that I recall vividly when you had Ron Callis come in from One Firefly and do an analysis of the websites of your members. And if I recall, it was almost 60% of them failed in terms of the quality of their websites, which is, obviously a marketing element. Do you see that marketing strength that Nationwide brings as something that really can help benefit your members a lot?
Yes, I think that will eventually be the number one benefit of the alignment. There was something like last year, Nationwide had 140 million impressions for the marketing campaigns they put on. I mean, we were talking earlier about, the economy's ups and downs, and, we sit in foxholes. You're now getting me on my soapbox, and I think we need a higher profile. And this is where I think this will be the best thing that ever happened for Azione dealers. They'll have great websites. We are working right now and talking to our vendors in our 2022 programs about cooperative advertising. Dealers have skin in the game. Marketing is handled by Nationwide, and there's just it's just smooth. It'll be flawless. It'll be opt out as opposed to opt in. So I think it's going to be huge.
Let me stay with you. Let's do the flip side of the coin. What are some of the strengths that Azione members bring that Nationwide members will benefit from?
The only thing, there's a couple of things that we do that are endearing to our dealers, our dealer members, and our vendor members. And they have to do with our meetings and getting people FaceTime. And the one thing I think we could do is maybe help Nationwide in their large meetings with 3,500 people or 5,000, maybe make them more intimate by doing more breakouts. And I think we could help them in that area. Other than that, they're far ahead of us when it comes to a lot of the business practices. We're good at taking care of it. I call it fanny padding, taking care of the affluent clientele, candelabra, tablecloth, that kind of stuff. But some of the business services we're a little short on. So it's a nice thing. Nationwide's, I had a vendor say to me, there is no organization like Nationwide that does marketing, that promotes their dealers again and again and again. They are the best at that. And,
Yeah.
and I think we could certainly use that, and we can help them maybe create more of a family type vibe, which we're pretty good at.
So Tom, do you see that as one of the benefits from the nationwide side, where they see these, ASEAN members who are dealing with, ultra wealthy or high affluent clientele, and how they're catering to, persnickety heads of households and those sorts of things, and bringing a customer service element that maybe some of your guys who are bounded in retail might learn as they move more into smart home installation?
Yeah, I think that that's part of it, and I would tell you, one of the great opportunities for us, Richard doesn't do himself enough credit in terms of kind of what he's built sometimes, and over there in terms of giving the member a voice with the vendors, and then more important, just as importantly, and it's a unique concept to his group, is giving the vendors a voice with the membership. Sometimes we forget that that's just as important. And so creating that connection, he's got a very unique connection with his vendor and member community. We have a connection as well. Sometimes it may be a little more transactional than the one that he has presented, where it's, honestly, I admire some of the partnerships he's built there. And we've got some great partnerships. I don't want to say that we don't, but the way they go about networking, the way they go about leading, the way they go about partnering with their vendor and service partners is pretty unique. And there's a lot for us to learn there. And there's a lot for our, we've got our own group of integrators inside Nationwide. And there's a lot for those guys to learn alongside of Richard's folks, and a lot of them to learn together, right? The networking piece for our members and the Azione members, I think, will be a pretty important piece. We've got some persnickety members of consumers of our own in the appliance side. That's another opportunity to connect those really super high-end appliance, customers that we have with the really super high-end, automation customers that Richard has. That's a whole other delightful opportunity around the network. But we're proficient in persnickety customers as well sometimes.
That's all right. Let me stay with you. You brought up the the vendor crossover. How much crossover was there between the vendor communities for both Nationwide and ASEAN, Tom?
I know the answer, Tom.
Okay.
Richard knows the answer.
Six? Really? Wow. I thought it would be much more than that. So
nope, 6. And it's mostly TVs.
Yeah, and that's an opportunity that Richard spoke to in itself, right? Big opportunity for some folks in our dealers to be exposed to some brands that Richard has, and maybe some partnerships that we have. There's so much synergistic opportunity between these two organizations that we just sat around and couldn't see any reason why we didn't have to do it for the benefit of both groups.
Yeah. So Tom, are there any particular smart home categories that you feel like have stronger momentum amongst your members that you really want them to get more heavily into?
Look, smart home, automation, lighting, Richard's, led in those categories. I think we can learn a lot. I think we can do a lot of things together, particularly around connected home, but I would love to follow. He's pioneered some pretty interesting stuff, particularly around lighting. I would love to follow that, and also with education and candidly procurement of human capital. It's one of the biggest things in the world that we're struggling with today. And so if we can get some of that stuff right, provide some assets and maybe some capital and some resources behind some of the great ideas that Richard's had, I think we can extend it deeper into the membership and make everybody quite a bit more profitable, which is our goal at the end of the day.
Yep. Richard, Tom mentioned earlier smart appliances. Do you see smart home integrators specifying or even inventorying smart appliances at some point, or where do you see that going?
I do, and we are working on right now a referral between high-end appliance members of Nationwide and ASEAN dealers, and that absolutely will be a winner. We have identified 170. We have 258 dealers. There's 170 high-end luxury purveyors in Tom's group that would match up well with ours. And we're simply working out the details of how to make that handshake.
Fantastic. All right, let's keep moving. Richard, stay with you on this one. What do you say to an ASEAN member who may have felt like he had a semi-exclusive relationship with a niche manufacturer in a particular category, and now finds himself with a larger nationwide retailer or competitor in his same local area carrying that? What is the message there?
Well, I don't think, I'm not sure about the question because candidly, they're of the HTSN members, which is a subset, they only cross over in 17 markets and they're basically appealing to a different client. So we don't really, and the lines, it's the fact ASEAN vendors stay in ASEAN. Should they choose to play with HTSN or nationwide, they're welcome to do so. That's, that's entirely up to them. But we're not going to sell appliances and we don't see any conflict between nationwide appliance dealers and HTSN dealers. We have had no migration from one group to the other. And at this point, we've had no vendors cross over.
Yeah, Jason, you take the crosshatch of that 17 dealers and only 6 brands, and it didn't even register as a conflict opportunity between the two groups. That's why we looked at it and we're like, okay, if we could just get out of our own way, we could do some great stuff between the two groups because there's so much opportunity on both sides.
It's all plus business. Yeah.
That's great because I think that was that question was kind of born out of information that I've heard from integrators who aren't ASEAN members, of course, who are thinking, oh man, I'm glad I wasn't part of that because now they just did this deal and the big retailer down the street is going to be carrying all the brands that I was carrying. That's what
we would be out of business. We do. Listen, the vendor, you got to think about who's really driving the bus. And we may think we're driving the bus. I think a lot of times the vendors drive the bus. A lot of times the dealers drive the bus, and Tom and I sit in between and hope it's going straight. That's the way it works.
All right, fantastic. Just a couple other questions. And Richard, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I asked this question only because I've heard it from other people. Was part of this strategy, or was in any way this influenced by you? Looking down the road to improve your golf game and maybe ride off in the sunset at some point?
I shot 69 the other day, so I don't know if I can improve my golf game.
That's what I was going to say. He's not doing this for his golf.
The question is, they will carry me out of this seat. I am not going anywhere. I will be in the industry as long as I have fun, and it's still fun to me. I am not interested in playing golf 7 days a week or watching CNBC on snowy days. I'm not built that way. I like working. I like what I'm doing. I love my team. I love my dealers. I love my vendors. The Beauty Nationwide said, we're going to, run your business, Richard, and we'll help you in any way you can. What resources do you need? And literally, I haven't talked to Tom in 33 days. They have said exactly what, go run your business, make your dealers happy. What resources do you need? So I'm not interested in retiring. I'm at the right age to retire. I have no interest whatsoever.
Fantastic. All right, last question. And I know you haven't talked in a month or so, so maybe there is no update to this, but I know during your announcement on the 20th, you had both mentioned that, it was status quo in terms of Nationwide's primetime events and ASEAN's spring and fall events. Any update on that in terms of, Richard, you mentioned maybe having the ASEAN guys come to Nationwide and maybe do some classes and things like that, or where do you see that interconnection happening at the event stage?
Well, we have not talked about that candidly. But I know that we have made our plans to have our spring conference will be March 28th to the 30th in New Orleans. Tom, I think you're in Phoenix in February.
We are.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then we're going to switch to regional meetings in the fall, as opposed to have one national meeting. We're going to have 2 regional meetings, and in 2023 we'll have 3 regional meetings. We will also tie them in with our middle management meetings, which we call key leaders meetings. So we're going to get more into the neighborhood of the dealers and hope that we get 100% participation that way. My understanding is that ASEAN dealers will be invited to prime time, which I think would be a good thing, and they're welcome to attend. But we will have our own conferences. Tom, is that?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we talked about this as we kind of went through the conversations around, the culture and what we were doing, and and we're here to learn and lead. So Richard runs an incredible business, and his shows are very unique and very important to his business. we want to watch and learn from that. And now, can some of his folks come to our show and maybe learn some stuff from our show and talk to our folks and explore common problems and common opportunities? Yes. Part of the reason why we're doing this is shared leadership and shared learning. Absolutely. But right now we're booked all the way through 2022. I know Richard is too. We don't intend to shoehorn anybody's model into ours. Now, if we can find some efficiencies in cities further out as we get smarter, 2023 and beyond, we might see us in the same cities, and maybe one after the other to share some efficiencies around hotel. But the business models are very different. We intend to kind of augment each other, not mirror each other.
All right, fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining CE Pro Podcast, and congratulations again, Tom and Richard, on your merger. And I know everybody's very excited about it. Thanks you again.
Thanks for asking the questions, because they were great questions, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.